Now, the big story that all of you with phones know about already is something that happened today, this morning. Jeffrey Goldberg, who's the editor of The Atlantic, found himself on a Signal group chat. If you don't know about Signal, it's like text messaging, but it's encrypted and it's used by folks who journalists use it a lot to the messages. You can set them to disappear, and in theory, they're a little bit harder to tap into and discover than just normal texting. Jeffrey Goldberg found himself on a Signal chat with the senior most people in America's national security structure. President wasn't on it, but the vice president, secretary of defense, secretary of state, national security advisor, White House chief of staff, Stephen Miller, who's on every text chain, Tulsi Gabbard, a couple other officials, all on a text chain about the first big public military action by the administration, strikes against the Houthis. And how he got on the text chain is not exactly clear. Probably a lot of you haven't read the full Atlantic article. The full Atlantic article says Jeffrey Goldberg got on the chain. It seems because Mike Waltz, the national security advisor, reached out to him on Signal shortly before he got on the group chain. And it appears, it doesn't know this for sure, that somehow they got the phone number, put the phone number in the wrong chain, and he got on the chain. And he published a lot of the text messages. Sam, you can put up the headline, number one. He published a lot of the text messages. He took care, despite what some conservatives want to argue to try to change the subject, he took care to not publish national security secrets. The Trump administration accidentally texted me its war plans. So what they did was he was able to see, I would say, two broad categories of things. He's able to see kind of the policy discussion about whether they should go forward with the strikes, about in Yemen, about whether what the blowback would be, where what the pros and cons of going forward were. That policy discussion he printed some of. He also says in the chain were operational details about the strike that are secrets and go to the crown jewels of American national security capacity. We don't know everything about what happened. We don't know everything. But what we know is that they engaged in a level of carelessness and inappropriate behavior that any MAGA person, I shouldn't say that, many MAGA people, if this were done by the Biden administration or the Obama administration, would be calling for everyone to be fired who was on that chain. Everyone. Eventually, Jeffrey Goldberg withdrew from the chain, and the White House, everybody in the national security team is referring questions to the White House. And the White House gave everybody the same statement, which is chain's real. Don't know how the guy got on there. The conversation shows how fantastic the administration is. Okay, now, people like John Bolton and some other Republican national security officials on the record, and plenty of current officials on background are saying this is a nightmare. Number one, you don't use Signal for these kinds of conversations. Now, unfortunately, it's very common. Government systems are not that great. And if you're on the golf course or taking your kid to school or at the Safeway, you don't necessarily have time to access these conversations in the same kind of real-time group texting that Signal can do. So it's obvious why sometimes government officials have improper conversations that way, but they shouldn't be on Signal with that stuff. And Hillary Clinton's already tweeted about this. I mean, we know they did that unless Jeffrey Goldberg's wrong. And again, the White House is not denying that the chain is real. Number one, national security secrets, crown jewels on Signal, completely inappropriate. Number two, adding Jeffrey Goldberg to the chain. Some people are speculating it was not a mistake. It seems almost certainly it was a mistake. But that's, again, a level of carelessness. Like, okay, you're the NSC advisor. You're organizing a high-level conversation with the vice president, the secretary of defense, the secretary of state, the director of national intelligence, the head of the CIA. Probably need to make sure the group is pretty clear who's in the group, right? So that's number two. Number three, Signal, according to Jeffrey Goldberg, some of the messages were set to disappear like in, I forget, a day and some in 2 days or something. But you can't in the government create records like that disappear. Now, is it possible that someone on the NSC staff was screenshotting them all and saving them in the archive? I suppose, but I doubt it. Okay. So those are amongst the inappropriate things that were done. And again, we don't know everything. Is it possible that there'll be some mitigating facts based on the facts we know? I doubt it. Okay. Now, Donald Trump was asked about it today, and here's what he said. Number 3.
Mr. President, your reaction to the story in The Atlantic that said that some of your top cabinet officials and aides had been discussing very sensitive material through Signal and included an Atlantic reporter for that. What is your response to that?
I don't know anything about it. I'm not a big fan of The Atlantic. To me, it's a magazine that's going out of business. I think it's not much of a magazine, but I know nothing about it. You're saying that they had what?
They were using Signal to coordinate on sensitive materials and
having to do with what? Having to do with what? What were they talking about?
With the Houthis.
The Houthis? You mean the attack on the Houthis?
Right.
Well, it couldn't have been very effective because the attack was very effective. I can tell you that. I don't know anything about it. You're telling me about it for the first time. Anybody else?
There's 2 possibilities regarding what President Trump said there, because that was after the Atlantic story came out, obviously. Number 1, the president knew about it, probably didn't know about it during, not a big Signal user in my sense of the world, but around 2 p.m. I see in the chat, which accords with my sense. So number 1, he didn't know about it, and they didn't tell him about it. Okay? That's Biden-esque. That's something that Republicans would be highly critical of.
I think it was around 3 o'clock.
3 o'clock.
Around 3 o'clock. That's his comment, yeah.
Okay. This is and what time did the Atlantic story run? Like 11 o'clock, maybe?
I think so. Late morning.
Yeah, late morning. Okay. So it's hours. Okay. If they didn't tell the president of the United States about this for hours, they should be fired for that. Or he's lying. Probably the latter. Not the biggest lie he's ever told. And he's done stuff like this before, of course. But that's outrageous. Okay? Because if I'm Aaron Sorkin and I'm writing the role of the president in the West Wing and this happens, he's pounding the table and saying, we're going to get to the bottom of this. And whoever did this will be fired. Because this is a firing offense. I'm a very forgiving person, believe in the presumption of grace for all peace, love, and understanding. And mistakes happen. But these guys and gal, at least one gal, 2 gals, Susie Wiles and Tulsi Gabbard, like no one on this Zoom would think it would be okay to have a national security conversation on Signal. No one. Not one of you would think that was okay. So do I think they should all be fired? I mean, again, I'm a very forgiving person, and it doesn't make sense for them all to be fired. Joe Biden fired like 2 people the entire administration, and a lot of people made mistakes. There has to be accountability for this. It doesn't mean somebody needs to be fired, not necessarily, but Democrats will call for that. And Republicans on Capitol Hill have mostly been quiet so far. But I'll say again, imagine the reaction of national security Republicans if, just based on the facts we know now, this was done by a Democratic administration. And that's part of what I'm trying to do here on this program and on this platform, which is there has to be standards here. There have to be standards for government conduct, government officials. This was not corruption as far as we know. It was not done with malice or evil intention. It was sloppy and careless and lazy and an accommodation to their belief that they know better and that they can handle it and that Signal's somehow going to be safe. Okay? There's so many stories that are going to come out in the next few days about what if they left their phone in the Safeway? What if the Chinese could get into Signal? Like, now, what other people are going to say, and this is what the Clinton people said during her email thing, which is the government system ain't that great. Okay, that's a dirty little secret about the government systems. Not only are they clunky and not user friendly in the modern era, but they're not that secure. Okay, but rules is rules. And again, there's not a person on here. If the National Security Advisor said, should we be talking about the details of a military operation on a commercial app on our personal phones or government phones. We don't really know which it was. No one on here. If he said to you, said Bella, Rex, Jack, Johnny, is it okay if I talk about military action on a commercial app? You'd say, well, no, use the government system because that's probably more secure. This is outrageous. It's outrageous. And it's a massive violation of any standard of competence. Any standard of competence. It's breathtaking. And I was a critic of Hillary Clinton, and I thought the way she obfuscated about what she did and pretended it was something different than it was not good. Do I think she should have gone to prison for it? No. Do I think she paid a price for not being straightforward about it? I do. And so far, they've not been straightforward about it. I don't know how they could defend this. I don't know if one person's going to take the fall, but my goodness, the White House chief of staff, and again, unless Jeffrey Goldberg, unless there's something amiss here, she weighed in on this thing. So she wasn't sort of passively on a chain. She texted, Rubio texted, the Pentagon secretary texted extensively. They all knew they were on signal, and they all should have known better. It's now, as the president suggested there, and as the White House spokesperson said, it didn't hurt the mission. So what does it matter? Why would an ordinary person care? It could have. It could have hurt the mission. So they're lucky it didn't seem to, but I don't know how they're possibly going to explain it.